Hello. Today I will be featuring the Fiji. Now, I haven't really featured the Royal Navy cruisers in a while, since in general they haven't really changed too much since they were released. They were very strong at release, and they are still very strong, especially the Fiji. Of course, when I say very strong, I mean from pretty much Fiji upwards. The Leander is pretty good. Everything below the Leander I consider almost garbage, and Leander is okay. Fiji is very good. Edinburgh is okay. Neptune, Minotaur, both very good. That's pretty much my opinion. But the Fiji itself has obviously become a big favorite in ranked this season, and for obvious reasons. The AP is strong, it's got good range, 15.4, and the reload is very quick. It has pretty much exactly 50% more DPM than the Leander, because it gains another gun on every turret. So firepower wise, I might in fact say the ship might be overpowered at times. In fact, this ship is the strongest tier 7 non-premium ship by far. It used to be the Myoko. I used to think Myoko was the absolute number one, but that was of course before they added the Fiji. And with the introduction of Fiji, it's pretty obvious that the Myoko doesn't stand a chance. The big differences are, of course, the smoke. Having your own portable smoke generator and having a heal combined with the DPM you can pump out just makes this ship incredible. The torpedoes are, of course, great as well. You only have 3 of them, sure, but 8 km range, they hit quite hard. Having a Hydra as well, making yourself safe in that smoke. That Myoko spotted me. I think at least. Smoke runs out, I pop my own smoke. I'm ready to move though. This Myoko, I'm pretty sure this Myoko torped. Already accelerating. Yep, there they come, as expected. When a Myoko sails by like that, you can expect torps. But like even facing a Myoko at this close range, you just shred them. Because Myoko of course has to give a significant amount of broadside to be able to fight you, and if he gives a significant amount of broadside, well then you just shred him with citadels and AP. If he tries to angle rush you, well, I mean he can only really bring 2 guns to bear, and that's it. With the Myoko long reload, that's not really gonna end too well for him either. Of course the Myoko can burn you from range, but as we saw in ranked, the smoke meta was so prevalent that the Fiji has, well, it's obviously been the favorite, and if you do get broadside, you can end it very quickly. So ultimately, the Fiji non-silver, silver ship, non-premium, is absolutely the strongest tier 7 right now. There's really no point to argue about it. No other ships even come close. Shores was never in the competition, it turns too clumsily, it's too squishy, and were there ever any other competitors really besides Myoko and Shores? Pensacola was never really a competitor, even with the additional stealth, it just can't take any hits. And the York, actually I quite enjoyed the York for ranked, surprisingly. York was significantly better in ranked than it was in random battles, but that was mostly because you had to play it aggressive, so a lot of people didn't really understand. Those who watched my stream probably saw how I played York in ranked, and I actually had a really good win rate on the York and did a lot of damage, and that's mostly because I tended to push in very aggressively among the DDs with German cruiser Hydro running, and it used to really shred enemy destroyers and just mess up their plans big time. So that was actually very strong, but in random battles you can't of course do that kind of stuff, so the York is still pretty garbage at those. Oh look, I am without a smoke here, of course, which means I need to keep angled, because battleship AP is still of course a massive threat for any Royal Navy cruiser, including the Fiji. Even if you angle, you're still gonna be eating damage. Angling doesn't really save you from damage, it saves you from being deleted, and it saves you from eating massive citadels, but you can still get plunging fire citadels, and even when angled you still eat a lot of damage. Now at this point I could actually get undetected, because the ship with concealment expert you get 9.8 km concealment, which is of course excellent. So I could get undetected, but I'm fairly confident in my chances. So I'm just taking some shots, waiting for my smoke to get up. As soon as smoke is up I slow down and just glide into it. Not really the best position to shoot at anything, this smoke, but it's more that I wanted, 1, I wanted to be able to shoot, 2, I wanted to buy some time for my heal to get up so I could heal back some of the damage I've taken. This is one of the few things, of course, where the Fiji is weak, and that's when you have to shoot an angled battleship. Especially if it doesn't have a ton of superstructure, your damage is pitiful. You saw how many shells I landed. That was what 9 shells landed. Only 2 actually penetrated. The rest were bounces and shattered shells. And this is something common. Of course, the Belfast is much better here because you can just spam HE, and well, HE, of course, well, it doesn't care about angling at all, and you get fires and all these things. But ultimately, they are surprisingly evenly matched. The Belfast is still stronger because radar is such a fantastic tool, but the heel does give the Fiji a surprising amount of staying power, and the torpedoes are a good way of stopping people from pushing too aggressively into you. So, not quite up there, but fairly close. The biggest issue I really have with this is that the power creep is pretty obvious here. Even with the buffs to the poor Pensacola, it can't match up with these ships. I mean, it's really nothing compared to these ships. Yes, you can have some decent Pensacola games. You load AP. Like the Pensacola playstyle is either you spend a lot of time at long range spamming HE, you burn up battleships, or alternatively, now with the new concealment especially, you load up AP and you wait for cruisers to give broadside and then you punish them, because the AP is of course American AP, which does a lot of damage, hard hitting, good penetrations and so forth. These are ways to play it, but it doesn't even compete with the Fiji. Like, it doesn't even come close. And that's a bit of a shame, because the Fiji is just honestly quite a monster. All these things combined just make it a incredibly powerful ship. In fact, the turret traverse on this ship is 25 seconds, and when a turret traverse is that fast, you obviously don't need to run Expert Marksman, but you can run Adrenaline Rush, which I of course love on all smoke cruisers, because, well, any damage you take, it means you can just heal up again. This battleship is shooting HE, which is, while humorous, you actually take a lot of damage from HE in Royal Navy cruisers because you're so thinly armored. In general, you don't really want to be tanking shells in Royal Navy cruisers. That's really not your thing. You want to be avoiding them or just avoiding being shot at in general. This New Mexico seems to be pushing in towards me, which is a strange decision. I guess he's hoping to land some more shells, but the Koenig is honestly more scary than this New Mexico, and if this New Mexico decides to switch to AP, then I'll be in serious trouble. So just to play it safe, I'm gonna smoke up here. HE, not a big deal. He is turning, I guess, to shoot his back turrets. Not the best possible timing for that, since my predicted torps are probably gonna nail him, all 3 of them. So, once again, the torpedoes are a nice addition. You don't really find too much use for them, they're very situational, but when it comes to dealing with people trying to push into you, and honestly if you end up knife fighting other DDs, knife fighting other cruisers, the torpedoes are an excellent tool. People tend to spam them a bit too much in my opinion, because the threat of having the torpedoes is greater than just throwing them away, because as soon as the enemy sees the like if I'm fighting another cruiser, and he sees torpedoes whip past, then he knows, oh well, this guy can't use this tool anymore. I can now push close and brawl him, and he can only use the torps on the other side. And I think losing that tool is rarely actually worth it. I tend to save the torps for when they are actually needed. Anyway, this game ends very quickly, a short game, but 158,000 damage. This was such a short game, and this ship just shreds anything it runs into. Base XP wise, almost got my Kraken, 2.2k base XP. You can, looking at the XP, the game barely had time to get started and it was already over. The total duration is less than 10 minutes in this game, and almost all the damage was of course AP. And you can see the sheer amount of shells fired, 546. It's not that the individual AP shell is that strong on this ship, it's more the fact that it can pump them out so incredibly quickly, and so many of them, and every single one does consistent damage. And it's that consistent damage with this DPM which is what makes the Fiji a monster. And that's why people tend to farm so many high calibers and stuff in ranked with this ship, is because they consistently deal damage to everything all the time. Constant, non-stop, sit in smoke, dakka, 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 dakka. And it's such a damage monster. You deal more damage than battleships in ranked. And that's why it's so popular. And that's why so many people are using it. And when you compare it to the other cruisers that don't have smoke, like Belfast is literally the only exception here, it's obvious why this ship is so powerful. Anyway, let's move on to my recommended build. Right, starting off, upgrades module-wise, you want to get the hull upgrade. Honestly, the hull upgrade is the most important thing, because you get the rudder shift, you get some additional AA, and you get some HP. All these great things are great that you want, and the other upgrades aren't really that big of a deal, or the other modules, because the torpedo upgrade is very small damage-wise. I assume it also adds flooding chance, but since the UI doesn't show this thing, and the range upgrade, not really that big of a thing. I mean, if you get the range upgrade, yes, you can stealth fire, but stealth firing is awful in the ship because the arcs are so massive, so you don't really bother. I mean, get both the upgrades in whichever order you like, but you're not in a hurry. Damage control premium, smoke premium in this order, heal premium, followed finally by hydro premium. That's in the order as you can afford them. Main armaments mod 1. AA guns mod 2, while you're a cruiser, you want to increase the AA range. You actually have really good AA, so there's really no reason not to be increasing it to 6 km range. Damage control 1, and finally steering gears to get that rudder shift down, because once again you want to be avoiding shells. Order of priority, priority target 1, priority target is your first perk. Adrenaline Rush, once again, turret traverse on the ship is 25.7 seconds, which means expert marksman will have a minimal impact and it's not worth speccing into it. Superintendent, additional heal, smoke, hydro, fantastic. Concealment expert, and that's the basic build, very similar to many other cruisers. And once you have this base build, this is where you can start working forward. My suggestion, manual fire control. The Fiji has guns that benefit greatly from manual AA, these big guns, and this continues all the way to the tier 10. The Enimero benefits even more. The Neptune, on the other hand, turns into an absolute monster because it's got 2 sets of guns that have 100mm guns, so this one becomes an absolute monster with manual AA. And even the Minotaur benefits, but on the Minotaur it might be worth getting AFT instead. It's kind of, you can pick and choose. Other captain perks, ultimately you might want to work towards my Minotaur build, which is of course, I think these days I use AFT or manual AA, that's Minotaur only. Then I use Vigilance and Jack of all trades. Jack of all trades is of course a very, very good perk for the Royal Navy cruisers, as it reduces the cooldown of repair, smoke, hydro, heal, all these things you want. And when you combine it with the flag that reduces it by another 5%, you end up getting 10% to all the things you use regularly. Smokescreen expert, I don't really value it. I mean, if you have issues a lot with your smoke, that might be worth it, but honestly it's better to just get used to them. Anyway, that was my Fiji commentary, the ship I now consider the strongest non-premium tier 7. I hope you enjoyed it.